Hi, I'm Renarta Clanton Moyd. I'm a communications specialist with the Cumberland County Schools and your host of Get Connected. During this monthly show, we highlight numerous educational topics that face today's student, educator, and parent in the Cumberland County Schools. Now, it has become well realized that military children in our schools, along with their families, are facing some unique challenges during this time of war. They're dealing with deployment and separation, as well as grief and loss, on top of coping with the day-to-day. But the good news is that help is just a phone call away for military children and their families. Now, after this break, we'll talk with two school military liaisons about what's being offered to support these children and their families along life's way on this edition of Get Connected.
This is the moment I knew his future had no boundaries.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again now.
That's it. Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
Again, thanks for joining us for this edition of Get Connected, where we're talking with Anna Rodriguez, the Cumberland County Schools Military Family and Youth Liaison, and Shevelle Godwin, who works as the School Liaison Officer from Fort Bragg Schools Support Services. Anna and Shevelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm so glad to have you all here.
It's good to be here.
Both of you are such knowledgeable women, so I mean, this is going to be a wonderful interview, right?
Sure.
Like how you said that. Now, first off, tell us, what is a military, and I have to read this to make sure I get it right, Military Family Life Consultant, or MFLAC?
An MFLAC is a trained professional that is designed to provide counseling services to our military youth and families.
Okay. Now, at this point, I know I mentioned in my intro that there's a lot going on with the military and our armed forces, the families and those types of things, but how important is what MFLAC, or those consultants, how important is what they do to the military families?
It's very important because our children, as well as our youth, are dealing with a number of issues on a daily basis. So when our MFLACs are actually in the schools, they sometimes may have some behavior concerns. They may be dealing with deployments, or they may be dealing with daily school activities that our MFLACs actually are there on school sites to deal with some of those concerns that the children have on a day-to-day basis.
And the good thing is, from what I read, the consultants also work with the families, correct?
That's correct, as well as the staff in the schools.
Oh, great. So it's almost kind of like everyone coming together to kind of figure out what's going on.
Right.
Okay. Now, how many schools in Cumberland County have MFLACs?
Actually, there are 33 schools in Cumberland County that have actually been based in our Cumberland County schools. So 30 MFLACs that are serving 33 schools at this time.
Now, how was that determined?
We actually look at the number of schools. If there are 300 students or more in the Cumberland County schools, we actually look at that population and serve an MFLAC in that particular school.
Now, you know, with both of you, I know, Anna, you are a military wife.
Yes.
Are you as well, Shevelle?
Yes, I am.
So with you all working with military children, you get this, you understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, give me your perspective, Anna.
Well, we moved several times, but actually the most difficult move that we had was when my husband retired. We went back out west to be with our family, and my kids were just very, very unhappy. And there were no services there because we were technically out. So we ended up coming back, and it was just a really big adjustment for my boys. And I think that if they would have had somebody in place like that back then, it would have been really helpful for them.
Yeah, I could see that. Is that the same?
Same here. I believe I have a certain empathy walking in another's shoes, realizing that being a military child in these services were not here, and now a military retired wife, knowing that when families say, do you understand? And I do understand what our families are going through today, and those services are there, and knowing how important it is to use the services that have been put in place for our families in the schools and after school activities, or greet that child when that child gets off of the bus and see that sad face and say, what's happening with you today? Is there something? Do I need to walk you to class? And this is exactly some of the things that our military family life consultants are doing today in our schools.
That's good. Now I know, Anna, with you having worked in the schools and also by trade being a school counselor, you see certain things. Just a minute ago, Shevelle mentioned, the child getting off the bus and sad. But I'm sure there are other things that you've seen that are not symptoms, but are indicative of maybe a child that's not adjusting well behaviorally.
Right.
Talk to me a little bit about that.
There's a lot of anxiety attached to that, especially when they're moving so many times throughout the parent's military career. They wanted to they have difficulty making friends, or their parent is deployed and they don't know what's going on with them. They don't have, they have limited contact with their parent. They miss them. I mean, even if they have frequent contact, it's still, they still have to take on some more responsibilities as a child that they would normally have to do.
Right.
So those are just some of the things. And then divorce is prevalent in the military. So we have a lot of students that not only is their parent deployed, but they're not coming back as far as that family unit. As they knew it. So I think that's another big issue that's been going on.
Yeah, and they're little warriors. I declare they are. I mean, you don't really think about that, but they really are warriors, just like, the mother or the father may very well be who's active duty or what have you. They have to withstand, and they may not understand the whole ball of wax and those types of things. So it's always good to have your program available for them. Now, and that was, what are the qualifications that are required for a child to be placed in your program?
Actually, one of the things is simply a parent saying, I would like for my child to be a part of this program. They sign an authorization for the military family life consultant to work with the child in the schools. And an interesting thing, if you see that your child are having some concerns, some adjustment issues, just simply sign that paperwork, or let the principal, the teacher, know that, can I meet with you after school, or can I meet you at a coffee shop? Just wherever you are, wherever you need to be, the military family life consultants will be glad to meet with you.
That's good. Now, what is the structure? What is the program structure there?
One of the things that when we look at the program, we have actually said that we need to have military family life consultants. They're all over the county throughout. We have them in the Cape Fear region, in the Terry Sanford region. So wherever, we've tried to make sure there are several military family consultants all over the county to make sure wherever, if it's elementary, high school, middle school, the structure is completely there for success for our students.
Okay. Now, I know there's a program called the Child and Youth Behavioral Program. Talk to us a little bit about that. What is that program about?
It is just basically the military family life consultant program for children and teens. And we realize wherever the children are, and we realize younger children have some different needs. Our teens, however, have a whole together different set of needs that bullying may come into place, or it may be just the adjustments or having transcripts, and I just need somebody to sit down and talk to me. I may not want to talk to my parents right now, but if those are issues that need to be brought up, if there's a duty to warn, then that military family life consultant will make sure that teachers and principals, as well as the military, will be notified of those concerns when there is a need to be notified.
That's good. And what type of activities do they do with the students?
They do some small group activities. They participate in school-wide events, various school-wide events, and the small group activities would be like Club USA, where that's a military.
Okay, I'm like, what's Club
Yeah,
USA?
Club USA is like a small group program for students that have parents that are deployed.
Okay.
And it's a wonderful program. It was created actually by a counselor on Fort Bragg. And it's been used widely in Cumberland County schools. And so they pretty much are at the school and participate in as many types of programs that they possibly can to get involved with the students.
That's good. And you all have seen a lot of success through the program?
A lot of success, and it continues to evolve. I mean, with field trips and after school activities, and most of the time when you have an activity or something that needs an MFLAC's presence, we make sure and ensure that an MFLAC is actually there. We have monthly and quarterly meetings to say, okay, what's happening in the schools and how can we continue to improve the success of this program. Just recently, we had 22 MFLACs on the ground, and we looked at this and say, how can we improve? Well, we need more MFLACs on the ground to make sure that whatever our families need at this point, that the presence is there. So we've actually increased this program here on Fort Bragg from 22 to 39 military family life consultants.
That is great. And you told me, how many kids or children did you say are in the program right now?
Well, actually, we can't even begin to count because the numbers fluctuate every day. So many more students continue to enroll in the program because once they find out that a military family life consultant is present in the school and families say, I want to be a part of this, or is this military family life consultant at the middle school or the high school? So every time we put one there, one is requested at another school.
Really? And you know what, that was what I was going to ask. I mean, do the parents spread this around by word of mouth, you know? Oh, okay, yes.
That's the best
Definitely.
business card.
Okay.
That's the best calling card for this particular program.
Okay. Now, what are the limitations as far as the counseling services are concerned?
There has to be a line of sight. So anyone that the principal, the teacher, a coach, there has to be someone that's there on the premises to ensure that there is another presence when the military family life consultants are there with the children.
Okay, so that means that it can be a one-on-one with a child, but then another adult has to be present?
Yes, even if it's the parent, if the child has requested services, we need to make sure that there is a line of sight with the children. And they are properly vetted when the hiring takes place, but we also need to make sure that a line of sight.
Okay. And you know what, that's the question I have, the counselors. What are the qualifications, you know, for the counselors?
They have to have a master's or PhD degree in behavioral health, and they are licensed professional counselors through the state. So, I mean, they are highly qualified to do their job, and they are very well trained.
That's great. So I guess if we have graduates out there who've, you know, looking for a job, I mean, because your program's growing, I mean, are you constantly recruiting people, counselors?
Each one, we have a Magellan contract as well as a military Health Net contract, and each day we have counselors that are calling, how do I get on with this program? And so I refer them to the necessary personnel for that and let them take over from there. And so, like I said, the program has both programs have a waiting list. So when one person leaves, there's another person waiting to hear about that. Exactly.
Wow, how successful. This is great. This is great. Well, you know what, ladies, let's take a quick break, okay?
Okay.
All right. All right, don't go anywhere. Stick around for more Get Connected.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.
you can say with me, imagine what you'd see if every child had a book to read. So the mission is for us to get a book to each and every child. So let's join hands, book people unite, unearth hidden passion. Come on, we'll have a good time. One book could be the first element, helps to change a life. People unite.
Read to a child today and spark a lifetime of ambition.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of Get Connected. Our guests are Anna Rodriguez, the Cumberland County Schools Military Family and Youth Liaison, and Shevelle Godwin, who works as the School Liaison Officer from Fort Bragg Schools Support Services. Now, we're talking about the counseling support that is being offered locally to military children and their families during this difficult time of war. Now, ladies, before the break, we really got into some very interesting conversation, but what I want to do is kind of go back around and be a little more specific with some of the reasons why a child would be referred or need to see. And I have to read this again because I don't want to get the title of the individual wrong. The Military and Family Life Consultant, that MFLAC. Why would a child need to see?
I think a lot of it varies with the age of the child. When you have an elementary student and their parent is deployed, you have different issues with a younger student than you would with a high school student per se. So an elementary student may have problems sleeping, they may have regressive behaviors such as, you know, bedwetting or tantrums or things like that. They may have bad dreams, and just so the Military Family Life Consultant can really work specifically to address those needs. Then when you get up to the middle school, then you're starting to talk about increased responsibilities for the child, looking after younger siblings. Bullying is an issue usually in middle school that we try to combat, and a lot of our new students have issues with that. And then high school students, you have as we mentioned before, the issues with transcripts and credits transferring when they move, being new to a school when you're in high school, leaving all your friends behind. And if a parent decides to get out of the military, a shift in identity. So the MFLAC can help with all of those issues.
And if I can add to that, usually with the high schoolers, a lot of time the service member says, okay, you're in charge now. And children take that so literally, as if to say, okay, I have to be mom or dad when the service member is gone. And a lot of children have someone that they have to talk to regarding the responsibility that has been taken on. That's a lot for a child to take on. Right. And so a lot of times when the service member returns back to the home, we have to go through a reunification process for the entire family. Oh, yes. And this is when the MFLAC can actually come in and say, how do we bring this family back together when the service member is back into the home? And we have to go through that honeymoon phase, and MFLAC is a critical part of that process.
Right, and the expectations are very high, especially even with the R&R or the mid-year return of the parent where they can come home and visit for a couple of weeks. Right. Their expectations are really high of, oh, we're going to see dad or mom, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and the parent wants to come home and sleep. Rest, so it's it's a change of expectations, and then with our when they come home, the responsibilities that were given to the child are now being reassumed by the parent, and so they're thinking, well, you don't need me anymore.
And even the freedoms. You know, some of the freedoms, maybe the mother or the father, whomever was here, kind of lets the child do, and maybe it's not so, you know, pinned in on. Style. Yeah, exactly. And so then with the returning parent, it's like, no, you can't do that.
Right, and you have a junior who's been able to drive dad's car for a couple, months, and now he has to give it back.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it can be difficult for them to get used to all that.
Yeah, and you know what? I never realized how much impact that reunification is. I mean, that's just a huge piece. I remember as a reporter, I would go out to Green Ramp and cover the homecomings, and you see the kisses and the hugs, the balloons, the flowers. I mean, it's just beautiful. But then you don't realize that once they get home, there's a whole lot. And I guess having been a military spouse too, you think, oh, they're just going to be so happy. And sometimes they may be happy, but sometimes you'll see where there's a shift in thought, where they're just a little different you know, from, you know, just.
Right, they're still in the
Yeah.
military mindset.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so then they come home and they have to redomesticate themselves. I remember when my husband would be gone for a while, and he would come back. Those first 2 weeks were so difficult because I didn't want him to discipline the kids right away.
Right.
He wanted to come and step back in right where he left off, but I didn't want him to do that right away. I wanted him to be the good guy for a little while.
Right.
And I will take on the bad guy role. But, you know, and it was always difficult, but it usually took us a couple of weeks to iron things out, and once we did, everything was better.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a lot, and I'm glad your consultants are there to kind of help everyone navigate. And you know, speaking of which, the consultants are not just there for the children; they're there for the family.
Exactly, the family where the spouse can actually go in and talk and say, how do I begin to reintegrate my husband? Or even when there is a wife that has been deployed, how do I deal with this child that's missing mommy to have to tuck in at night? They can actually have service members read books, tape books, and read that story to the child over and over again. And they can actually teach parents how to deal with that when that parent is deployed. So there's all types of teaching mechanisms and methods to deal with that deployed parent. And even talk with teachers, because when a teacher has a child that has a parent that's downrange or deployed to an area, this is when the MFLEX are a critical piece to keeping that family together when there's a service member downrange. And sometimes teachers may have spouses that are deployed. That teacher has to maintain the classroom, but she or he may be dealing with issues as well. So it's an important piece of a puzzle to keep those MFLEX in the schools to deal with concerns as they come up with whoever is dealing with those.
Exactly.
Absolutely. You also have caregivers that aren't parents. When you have a dual military family, both parents can be deployed and the child is living with an aunt or uncle, grandparent, and so those family members may not know how to deal with the child's regression or behavior issues or anything that might come up while those parents are deployed, and so the MFLEX would be a valuable asset to them.
I'm glad Anna brought that up, because when you have grandparents, they've raised their children, and it's important for our MFLEX for us to give them the information and the resources. And I want to plug Army Community Services has been a tremendous access to actually providing that information to resources, parenting young children as well as parenting teens, and different resources that are available, anger management. They provide that information and that link that when you're trying to deal with some of these issues as they come up, they provide those resources for parents to be able, as well as the dependents, to come back to the installation to receive those resources.
That's good. That is good. And, you know, as I was listening to you all talk, I was thinking about, you know, just in my mind, it seems like even when your spouse leaves, you do need someone to help, because even when your spouse leaves, you kind of take on the role of a single parent. And I tell you, I don't know if it's just me, but it seems like whenever my husband would leave, the garage door would break. Some arbitrary animal would get in the house. And you know, and I'm like, why does this happen when he leaves?
Always.
We had a bat in our house.
Oh, you got a bat? Oh, not a bat.
It was a bat.
Oh, I have to find out from you how you ended up getting that out.
Okay.
Now, you know what? Is there a cost as far as using the consultants?
There is no cost. It's, and it's confidential. No records are maintained unless there is a duty to warn. So this is one of the reasons why we want to ensure that our families get the word and they begin to use these resources, because it's there. The military wants to ensure that you have everything you need for ultimate success for our families. So families, we want you to use this.
And it's confidential.
Confidential.
So it's
completely.
not like if this information gets back to his or her commander, it won't get back.
It will not
It won't
get back.
have a strike on
and
anyone's.
As much as we hate this as counselors, there is still a stigma when it comes to military families seeking help. And so we wanted to make sure through this service that we can provide the counseling that they may need without them having to worry about going through TRICARE, going through their primary care manager, going through their chain of command. And so this way they don't have to do it. The MFLEX don't keep notes. So it's a very, very good way for them to get services without having to worry about all of that.
That's good. Now, how do the consultants work with the school staffs?
They are there, and they're actually there to see what is going on today? Are there some issues that I need to check on today?
So they stop by the classrooms and
exactly.
talk with the
They're
teachers.
walking the schools. I don't sit in the office. In fact, I really don't need an office. I need to be in contact with the guidance counselor, the social workers, the principals. I need to be involved in the school improvement teams. I need to be a walking part of the school, a revolving door, walking and, like I said, greeting the children when they get off the bus. So I shouldn't be stagnant. I need to know exactly what's going on in the school environment.
And then how do consultants schedule their appointments? I mean, how does that
The
work?
parent can get on the phone and contact that MFLAC and say, okay, I need an appointment, set it up in advance, and it's just that simple as a phone call away. Yes.
And I say that in the intro, that it's just a phone call away. But you know what? Let me ask you this, Shevelle, before we move further. What is the phone number? How can people
Every
reach out?
MFLAC has a personal contact number.
Oh, okay.
It's just that simple, and we make sure they even have an email address. So you can email your MFLAC and say, I need this information. That's one of the first things. And we even ask our schools to put the MFLAC's information on their school website. So we want to make sure that they are readily available to our families.
And if they don't see the number or email address, they can always call the school and get through to them that way.
So the schools, okay, I didn't know if there was a central location, like an office where they could call to set up, you know, or to talk with someone initially.
We tell them to put that information right there in the office. So if the military
there at the
are
school
not
office.
aware, exactly.
Okay, that's good, that's good. Now, you know what, I see we're ticking down in time. Just want to get some final words from you about the success of this program, the need for people to, I mean, you know, jump on board, use the resources. Talk to us about that.
Well, MFLACs are a huge asset to the schools simply because they help the counselors be able to do their job better. A lot of our counselors are really stretched thin for time, and they have a myriad of duties, and by having this resource for them, it lets that population be served in the way that it needs to be without stretching the counselor or being rushed or not being able to see them at all as far as the school counselor goes.
That's good. That's good. So they're definite help.
Absolutely.
Definite.
Absolutely.
It's an extension of our Cumberland County schools. And we want our families to be able to use this. And one of the good things that our Reserve and National Guard, our contractors, anybody that wants to use this service, it's just that simple. Let the military family life consultants know that I'm in need of the services.
What about retired?
Retirees, let them know,
Great.
and it's just that simple for them to utilize and let the MFLAC know, I have a need.
And the way it stands now, all of our schools are aware of the program. So if you go to the school office and you express an interest to one of the administrators or the clerk or secretary there, then they'll know what to do as far as getting you in contact with a counselor.
Exactly, and they're in all of our school districts in Cumberland County Schools.
All right, that's great. Ladies, I have enjoyed talking with you.
Our pleasure.
I tell you, it's good to talk with other military spouses. I mean, it's like, yeah. So, but Anna, we'll have to find out about the bat. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, on behalf of the Cumberland County School System, we want to thank you for tuning into this edition of our show and for giving us a chance to help you get connected. Until next time.